Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivot Malkuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Shalom, everyone. This is Danny Palmer here in Springfield, Missouri from Yachad Qahal, teacher, rabbi. We want to thank all of you who tune in and watch these videos, and we hope they're a blessing to you and help you encourage to study further, become more knowledgeable of Yah's ways. We know that we've had people comment and thank us, and we've had a few say, well, thank you for being so thought-provoking. You've caused us to look at some things that we never even contemplated before. And we wouldn't even do that if we didn't think it was important that some of these things that people aren't aware of, that they know about, because they're part of Scripture. And we're going to touch on something that has to do with myself this week. And it's about what this season's about. This season of Pesach and Matzah. And it's a subject that most do not even contemplate or think about. And you'll understand why I said about me, because this is very close to my heart, because of what I am. And I'll cause you to think about it until I reveal what that answer is of what I am, why it's so close to my heart, because it may not be what you think, unless you've seen some of my other videos. And we're going to start out touching on the beginning of the story. We're going to go back to Bereshit, Genesis chapter 3. And the serpent was cunning above every beast of the field which Yah Elohim had made, and he said to the woman, Is it so that Elohim has said, You shall not eat from any tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, Of the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but of the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, Elohim has said, You shall not eat of it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Now the word serpent here in English is a little more wide open than the Hebrew word. The Hebrew word is nachash, meaning specifically the creature we think of as a snake. The word serpent kind of gives the idea of kind of a wide open field there, because almost all reptiles could be considered serpents. But we want to think of a creature at this time probably had legs. A snake nowadays crawling on the ground. And also we have the first addition to something said. It says, Chava said to the snake, We're not to touch it or eat of it. Now, in order to eat something, you do have to touch it, but Yah never told Adam that if he simply touched it, he would die. And the serpent said to the woman, Surely you shall not die, for Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, even your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil. Now the word Elohim, Eloheka, Eloheinu, all these words have to do with authority. What they did when they ate of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of the good and evil is they gave themselves authority. They usurped authority. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food. You can't see that something's good for food. And that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree was desirable to make one wise. You can't look at a tree or at something and realize it's going to make you wise. And she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Now I know many of you are going to be a little taken aback here, but Chava, Eve, did not have to go running off looking for Adam. He was right there with her the whole time. All she did was turn and give him the fruit, and he so wisely immediately took it and ate it. Be a little sarcastic here, because this was not a wise decision. It was stupid. Like if he made Chava angry, she was going to go off to another man? They're the only two human beings. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed leaves of the fig tree and made girdles for themselves. And they heard the sound of Yah Elohim walking up and down in the garden at the breeze of the day. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the face of Yah Elohim in the middle of the trees of the garden. And Yah Elohim called the man and said to him, "Where are you?" And he said, "I have heard your sound in the garden, and I was afraid, for I am naked, and I hid myself." It says, heard Yah moving around in the garden. Is this a time where he took on a human form and walked among us so that Adam could speak to him face to face? That's just a possibility. I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying he didn't either. And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you not to eat of?" And the man said, "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she has given to me of the tree, and I ate." Oh, the first attempt to escape the guilt. I'm going to blame the woman you provided for me as a maid. Yeah, it's her fault. Can't be mine. And Yah Elohim said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" And the woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." Now the woman's admitting she did it, but she's saying that she's deceived by the serpent. Still doesn't make what she did right, but she is admitting that she was deceived. I made the decision. I was the one that was tricked. And Yah Elohim said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed above all beasts, and above every animal of the field. You shall go on your belly, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He will bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." And he said to the woman, "I will greatly increase your sorrow and your conception. You shall bear sons in sorrow, and you shall desire to be toward your husband, and he shall rule over you." So she's going to be submissive because of her sin, and she's going to have pain in giving birth to her children. That's her curse. But notice, it goes a little deeper. Many have been taught for centuries that the woman is at fault here, entirely. And he said to the man, "Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree about which I commanded you, saying, 'You shall not eat from it,' the ground shall be cursed because of you. You shall eat of it in sorrow all the days of your life, and it shall bring forth thorns and thistles for you, and you shall eat the plant of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread until you return to the ground, for you have been taken out of it, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return." What threat would there be about returning to the dust if Adam was an immortal soul? There wouldn't be. The greater curse is on the male in this case. For you made the decision to do what your wife said. You didn't say no when you knew by my instruction that you weren't to do this. You went ahead and did it anyway. And the man called the name of his wife Chava, Eve, because she became the mother of all living. And Yah Elohim made coats of skin for the man and his wife and clothed them. Coats of skin. As I say, Yah does not do magic. Something died so that Adam and Chava could be covered for their act. He said the clothing they made out of sewing the leaves together wasn't sufficient. Why? Because it had no blood. The lamb slain from the foundation of the world is in the picture right here. And Yah Elohim said, Behold, the man has become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and also take from the tree of life and eat and live forever. And Yah Elohim sent him out of the Garden of Eden to till the ground out of which he was taken. Yah doesn't want us to live perpetually in our sin. That's why he expelled our first ancestors from the garden. That's why he exiled the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes of Israel, to the nations, not because we're righteous, not as a blessing, but so that we would turn back to him. And he told Adam, I'm going to put you back outside the garden from where I took you. If you remember, it says that he formed the human being from the dust of the ground, and then he put him in the garden. The human being wasn't formed in the garden. The human being was placed into the garden. And I'm using the term him here loosely because prior to Chava's coming on the scene, the word Adam means human being. And that's all it means. It doesn't mean male. The word for male is ish. The word for female is isha. And he drove the man out, and he lodged the cherubs at the end of the Garden of Eden on the east, and the flaming sword whirling around to guard the way of the tree of life. They're not prevented, nor is anybody prevented from going to the garden. We just choose not to. Because guess what going to the garden means? It means obedience. Those of you who think that going to heaven means to merely have your sins forgiven and there's no further action on our part, the New Jerusalem is a return to the garden. He does not allow disobedience there. Every Shabbat and every new moon, we shall go to the city. The idea that people have that the New Jerusalem is a picture of going to heaven up there, who knows where they think in their minds. It's not true. Nor did Yeshua ever say that the heavens and the earth would be eliminated. In fact, in Matthew 24, Yeshua says, until heaven and earth pass away, my word will not pass away. Once again, grammatically, if you know what that's saying, he's saying if heaven and earth ever pass away, my word isn't worth anything. He's saying if heaven and earth ever go away, because they're two of the witnesses. There are many witnesses that are talked about as two witnesses. This is one of those sets of two witnesses. It's the witnesses Moshe calls against Israel when he gives them the covenant. I call heaven and earth today to witness. Guess what? Those witnesses have to be around forever. This idea of the immortal soul is a pagan concept. In fact, it takes away the authority of Yah. Now we've got the sin. They've been expelled from the garden for their sake so that they can't live eternally in their sin. They are no longer immortal. Hey, they were immortal when they were in the garden. Those of you who believe that immortality is a permanent state, the scripture never says that. They were immortal until they sinned. The minute they left the garden, they lost their immortality. But they could have returned. But Yah knew we wouldn't do that. And all this time, he's been preparing the way for us to return. And the man knew his wife, Chava, and she conceived and bore Cain and said, I have begotten a man. Yah. She's telling Yah that she's begotten a man. I've got a man. I've born a child. It's the first child ever born. the firstborn son. The first ever born son. And she continued to bear his brother Abel. And Abel became a shepherd of flocks, and Cain became a tiller of the ground. And it was in the end of days, it happened that Cain brought an offering to Yah from the fruit of the ground. Now there's nothing wrong with being a tiller of the ground. There's nothing wrong with bringing offerings of that fruit of the field and of the trees. But it's not the only offering, because of the things that have already happened, that is to be brought. And that's what I want to point out to you. And it says she continued in this translation, because there are within the Hebrew some who believe that Cain and Havel, which is their names in Hebrew, may have been twins. That's just a possibility. Regardless, they're brothers. An older and a younger brother. And Abel brought forth he also from the firstling of his flocks, even from their fat. And Yah looked to Abel and to his offering, and he did not look to Cain and to his offering. And Cain glowed greatly with anger, and his face fell. And Abel also brought. Abel brought fruits and grains too. He didn't just bring a lamb. He brought the grains and everything also. The only difference between their offering is his brother didn't bring a living sacrifice. Something that had blood. And Cain's angry. Why? Because his brother was obedient and he wasn't. It's made clear in this chapter that Cain knew what was expected of him and he chose not to do it. Isn't that what we still find going on in humanity? All this time we've still been doing the same thing? Why are you looking on the one who does what you say with favor when I don't have to do that? I can serve you as much as I want, and that's good enough. And Yah said to Cain, why have you angrily glowed, and why is your face fallen? He's mad because, how dare you, my Creator, look to my brother's offering with more favor than mine? If you do well, is there not exultation? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door, and its desire is toward you, but you should rule over it. Or in some of the other translations, but you can overcome it. You don't have to give in to sin. You can resist it, as Shaul said. And Cain talked with his brother Abel, and said, let us go out into the field. And it happened, as they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Because his brother's offering was found to be more worthy than his, and he didn't want to admit his brother was right and he was wrong. How dare you, Yah, acknowledge my brother's sacrifice and not mine? I didn't do what you said, but that shouldn't matter. I brought you an offering. How dare any of us try to use that same defense? And Yah said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? And he said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? The very first question is, why should I care for someone else? I'm not responsible for them. And he said, what have you done? The voice of the blood of your brother cries to me from the ground. It doesn't say that Abel voice. It said the voice of the blood. Remember, Blood is a symbol of life, represented by Ruach. The blood is crying out, not Abel. The blood is crying out. And now you are cursed more than the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. You are cursed more than the ground. Under his father, the ground was cursed because of the sin that his father Adam participated in. And now he says, because your brother's blood has been shed on the ground, it's getting to get worse. When you till the ground, it will not again give its strength to you. You shall be a vagabond and a fugitive on the earth. And Cain said to Yah, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me out from the face of the land today, and I shall be hidden from your face. And I shall be a vagabond and a fugitive on the earth, and it will be that anyone who finds me shall kill me. And Yah said to him, if anyone kills Cain, he shall be avenged sevenfold. And Yah set a mark on Cain, so that anyone who found him should not kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of Yah, and he settled and married in the land of Nod, east of Eden. So he's not in the garden. He's not even in Eden again. It says the garden was in the east of Eden. That all of Eden was not a garden. It tells us that in the beginning of the story. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch, or in Hebrew it's Hanok, which has to do with dedication. And he built a city, and he called the name of the city according to the name of his son, Enoch. And Arad was born to Enoch, and Arad fathered Mahujael, and Mahujael fathered Matusael, and Matusael fathered Lamech. And Lamech took 2 wives to himself. The name of the first was Adah, and the name of the second was Zillah. And Adah bore Jabal. He was the father of those living in tents and raising livestock. And the name of his brother was Jubal. He was the father of all those playing the harp and the organ. And Zillah also bore Tubal-Cain, the hammerer of every engraving tool of bronze and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said to his wife, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, you wives of Lamech. Listen to my words, for I have killed a man because of my wound, and a young man because of my hurt. For Cain is avenged sevenfold, and Lamech 77. He's saying Cain would be avenged 7 times if he were killed by someone, so I should get 77. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and she called his name Seth, for Elohim has appointed to me another seed in place of Abel, because Cain killed him. And a son was born to Seth, and he called his name Enos. Then it was begun to call on the name of Yah. See the progression from Cain on down through his descendants gets worse, gradually. I killed my brother because I didn't do what I was supposed to, and I'm mad because he got recognized and I didn't. I don't need to obey. I can do whatever I want, and that should be enough. Yah told Cain, go on, I'm going to mark you. Nobody's going to kill you. But you're going to remember this all the days of your life. You're going to carry this with you all the days of your life. You were the first to shed blood. And you did it in anger. Did Cain know that in striking his brother he could actually kill him? We don't know. But we do know that he wasn't sorry about it. Now let's go back to chapter 1 of Bereshit. And build up some of the things that happened prior to this. Excuse me. As I mentioned in the last video, it's that changing time of year of the seasons and the pollen and everything else that goes on in the spring. Living here in the United States in the Midwest. So I hope you will overlook this because it's unfortunately common among us. Get a little dry, a little congestion build up. And if you'll pardon me, I'm going to have to put another cough drop in my mouth to keep some of the lubrication flowing. As I said last week, I'm looking forward to the time when we no longer have to deal with these things. That we are made whole again. And that's something that we should all be looking for. And Bereshit, chapter 1, verse 24. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth the soil of life according to its kind, cattle and creepers, and its beasts of the earth according to its kind. And it was so. And Elohim made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, and cattle according to its kind, and all creepers of the ground according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. And let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over all the creepers creeping on the earth. And Elohim created the man in his own image. In the image of Elohim he created him. He created them male and female. And Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the land, and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the seas, and over the birds of the heaven, and over all the beasts creeping on the earth. And Elohim said, behold, I have given you every plant seeding seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree seeding seed. It shall be food for you. And to every beast of the earth, and to all the birds of the heavens, and to every creeper on the earth which has in it a living soul, every green plant is for food. And it was so. And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. He said it was good. Even the creation of man in a human shell, a body, is good. He does not say that our bodies, what so many think of as this shell for our soul. No, this is our soul. This is the nefesh. This body, this is Danny Palmer. The ruach is what makes me alive. Danny Palmer is not immortal. I depend on Yah for my existence. I am not independent of him. The belief in the immortality of the soul gives people the idea that we exist, even if Yah punishes us. The birds, the cattle, the insects, the reptiles, the rodents, all those things. He created them all. Why do they behave the way they do? Why do we behave the way we do? It's because we, humanity, invited rebellion into the world. We, us and our fathers before us, for generation and generation and generation, all the way back to the beginning. And the heavens and the earth were finished, and all their host. And on the seventh day Elohim completed his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because he rested from all his work on it, which Elohim had created to make. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth, when they were created in the day of the making of Yah Elohim's earth and heavens. And every shrub of the field was not yet on the earth, and every plant of the field had not yet sprung up, for Yah Elohim had not sent rain on the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. Man's very first assignment will be to till the ground, to garden, to be a farmer. Yet in America especially, many people have come to demean those who graze the crops that we eat, or the crops that we raise to feed the livestock which we then eat, as if they're stupid. They can't do anything else. You know what? If it comes down to it, I would just soon see all technology and everything cease to exist. And we all went back to farming and working with our hands. So many people have been taught this idea that the curse is working. No, the curse is not working. The curse is that we have to work the way we do. Work is not a curse. It's the way we have to do it that's a curse. We make it harder for ourselves the more we rebel in each generation. And mist went up from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. And Yah Elohim formed the man from the dust of the ground and blew into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. We did not always exist. These ideas that we were some spark out there in the universe or something, that Yah sent down here and put us in a body so that we could earn our way back, is a false teaching. He formed man just like the potter forms a pot or something. He formed man, and then he gave us life. We are not independent of him. And Yah Elohim planted a garden in Eden to the east, and he put the man whom he had formed there. And out of the ground Yah Elohim made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was also in the middle of the garden, also the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Man was created to work, but we made that work harder. You know, it says that those who hate him up to the third and the fourth generation. You know, what we tend to do as human beings is if one generation pushes the limits and says, oh, that's not so bad, we can go ahead and do this, then their children come along and they push the envelope a little farther. In each generation, well, we can push it a little farther, a little farther, a little farther. And we become numb to the effects. And we forget that we are creation. You know, this, once again, you know, I harp on this immortality of the soul nonsense because it has destroyed people's faith in Yah. They don't believe in him because, well, I'm going to live forever anyway. I'm going to live forever either in heaven or in hell. Well, both of those concepts are sadly flawed also, because they don't trust Yah. And as I've said before, if you read the entirety of Scripture and you go, well, but there's some things that don't seem to fit and they don't make as much sense, you know, and one person seems to say one thing and another says another, and you know why? Because they're human beings that are allowed to record it with the thought processes that Yah has given them. It's not so important that we get every single detail to fit in our minds, but what's the overall message? That's the constant. The overall message is, Yah wants a people who obey him because we love him. not because we're afraid in fear. The fear that Scripture talks about is actually respect. Do we respect our Creator? And when we give ourselves these ideas that we're immortal souls, we disrespect our Creator. And then we have no regard for the fact that how wonderful the idea of resurrection is. The Adam is made of dust, clay, mud, dirt. Adam is made alive by neshama. This is the other Hebrew word I was telling you about, which has to do with inspiration, intellect, breath, blast, angry, soul. It has to do with us being given a certain amount of independence. We can think. All animals seem to have some ability to think. But we seem to be able to think at a level that no other thing in creation is able to think in. To contemplate things. To reason things. Why does this do this way? Other creatures seem to simply be able to learn that, okay, if I do this, then this happens, and then so they avoid it. How many of you ever had a pet dog, especially, that you've tried to teach that dog that, you know, if you do this, you're going to get in trouble, or if you do this, it's going to hurt you, like parents do with children. And they go back and do it over and over again. And yet somebody else has a pet or a child that they teach it. And, hey, I don't want to do that again. I got in trouble last time. I don't want to go there again. I learned my lesson. That's what he wants from us. I don't do these things to you because I hate you. I do them because I love you. Because I want you to understand. These things I told you not to do, they're bad for you. They hurt you. They hurt others. They damage the relationship between me and my creation. Without breath, a human being does not exist. Part of the implication here is that Yah gave humanity the ability to think at a level higher than the rest of creation. The problem is mankind has elevated itself to a status of self-importance that has neglected our assignment as the caretakers. That is Adam's second task. After the farming, the cultivation, he is taught to look after the rest of creation and its welfare, not to destroy it, not to abuse it. He's supposed to care about it. Because Yah said everything he did in creation was good. It's the things we've chosen to do that haven't been good. We have even given undue regard to other humans because we have been deceived into believing they are better than the rest of us. Money and wealth of goods have become man's scorecard for success. Yeshua warned us that possessions do not determine our value to the Father. We cannot impress him with things as everything belongs to him anyway, including us. Many people, I believe the immortality of the soul has blinded people to the fact that the earth is Yah's and the fullness thereof means us too, because we're created out of the earth. That's what he made us out of. As long as people continue to hold to the idea that we cannot perish, we will never look to Yah as our benevolent Father. You know what? He could have formed man and not given him breath. What would we be then? Would we be just like the other animals? We could react. And that's it. Resurrection is his means of restoring life to us as is witnessed in the example of the seed. You know, the seed doesn't grow until it's put back in the ground. You know, this is how it works with a man or a woman, too. I'm going to probably try to be delicate here because children may be watching with you. But the seed is in the male and the egg is in the female. The egg can do nothing without the seed, and the seed can do nothing without the egg. You know, you can take that seed off of a wheat or any other plant and hold it in your hand or put it in a container, and guess what will never happen? It will never sprout and grow. It has to be put into the ground. You know, when you put a seed into the ground, you're supposed to think of a woman's womb. That's where that seed will sprout and begin to grow. Because it takes those nutrients and those vitamins from the earth, just like that embryo in the woman's womb does the same thing as it begins to develop. It's kind of astonishing that humanity would look at its own kind and say, you know what, I planted this field here of crops. You know what, I've decided I'm just going to go out there and just burn it all down. Yet, many in our world today, unfortunately, think, well, I planted a seed as a man and a woman, and unfortunately, it began to grow. Let's get rid of it. Death is not a reward or escape from this planet and turmoil we have brought upon it. We brought that upon it. That's not part of his plan. And people have said, well, how can a loving God allow certain things to happen? How can he allow us to make bad decisions? How can a loving one not? If he shielded us all the time, we'd just be a bunch of robots. If we couldn't make any choices. See, the problem is people don't want those choices to be right or wrong. They just want them, well, we chose. We have the right to choose, and whatever we choose should be okay because we have the right to choose. You know, that's a squirrely way to look at things. Regardless of what my choice is, if I stick my hand in the fire, I shouldn't get burnt because I had the choice. And that's what so many decisions are. People don't want to think that decisions have consequences. You know, Yah said, I'll let you have the consequences. I'll forgive you if you come to me and admit your sin and change your ways. But that doesn't mean I'm going to take away the results of what your sin is. It's not a reward to die. I don't escape this world by dying. Because guess what? I'm one of the factors of whether this world is better or worse with my actions or inaction. We're supposed to be communal. If I'm only considering what happens to me and not to anybody else in the world, I'm worthless. He wants a family. You know what? If all he wanted was one of everything, he wouldn't have made two. If I just need to have a collection, hey, I'm going to create trees. Okay, maybe I want a variety of trees. I'm going to create one elm tree, one palm tree, one evergreen tree, whatever one of each species of tree. And that's what I'm going to create. There's only going to be one of them. I'm going to create one human being. I'm going to create one cow. I'm going to create one elephant. Whatever. Because that's all I ever want. He could have done that. But he set something in motion that's supposed to be beautiful. Can we look at it that way? You know, the time will come when those very creatures that we fear, and the creatures who fear us, will no longer fear each other. You know, I'm squeamish about snakes. You know, I don't like to be around them. I don't hate them. They just give me the heebie-jeebies, the creeps. They're so stealthy. And they move. Even in this area, I know all of you in the world out there who even are in English-speaking countries, we have a species here in the United States. It's in several varieties called the garter snake. It's a harmless snake. It mostly eats insects. Probably the largest in diameter around I've probably ever seen, or is it circumference? I can't remember which one of the two, but is maybe the size of a quarter, an American quarter. You know, it's roughly, somewhere around the size of this hole in between my thumb and my finger. It's huge for a garter snake, but, you know, they do occasionally get that large. And as I said, you know, they mostly live in lawns. You see them a lot in the cities here. You know, they live in the grass and the gardens and the bushes and everything, and they eat crickets and everything. And once in a while they'll eat small rodents. But they're not uncommon. But like all snakes, if they're put in the position of when they're in danger, they will bite. And since they are not a venomous species, the damage they're going to do is a wound or maybe an infection because of what they eat and how they live. But the very nature of how they conduct themselves in their daily lives is kind of creepy to me. Like I said, I don't hate them and I avoid killing them unless I have to. Usually when I kill one, it's an accident because I've run over it with a lawnmower or something. I didn't even know it was there. And I regret that. I'm sorry that it happened. But I didn't do it on purpose. So I've always found it interesting, and I eat meat. Clean meat. But even before I began to do that, I never could understand the idea of just killing something just because, wow, I killed it. Aren't I something? You know, I have nothing against hunting animals for food. But I would never hunt something that I didn't intend to use. And it's not a trophy. Fishing, I used to fish. And if a fish wasn't big enough, or if it was the wrong species that I didn't want, it's something I don't eat. If I can get it off that hook and put it back in the water alive, I'm going to. If it's dead, if there's no way I can spare its life, you know, I'll throw it in the water, knowing that something else will eat it, or throw it up on the bank or something, knowing that some other animal will come along. Some bird, whatever, will eat it. That's part of what it does. Never sought to kill anything just to kill it. We need to respect life. And there are many who think that those who want to protect animals, and I think some of them are over the top. We should respect all life. But we shouldn't go crazy with it either. The firstborn son of the mother is the embodiment of the hope of the seed, which will germinate and continue the process of Yah's blueprint for all creation, not just humanity. You know, my purpose is not to just do what Danny Palmer wants, but what is best for myself and everything else involved. do we build in areas that take land away from animals? And then we want to complain when some of those animals cause us problems. Have we found a way to cohabit with the other creatures of this planet? Not considering them our enemies or a nuisance? They have a purpose. When we think only human beings are important to the Father, then we are bowing down, worshiping the creation instead of the Creator. And you know who the creation is that we're bowing down to? Humanity. Ourselves. We're making ourselves greater than the Creator. Hey, we know better because this is what's important to humanity. These animals, these plants, or whatever it is that's a nuisance to what I want to do, I begin to worship my own self, my own fellow human beings, and our agendas, which are against His. Yeshua is the creator element of Elohim, and the Father is the architect or planner. I know many go, well, we don't have to keep the Torah because we're not into that. Well, you are if you drink that cup and eat that bread. You're saying that you're under the covenant. The very covenant that Yeshua came. He drank that cup and died for us. Not so that our sin isn't sin anymore, but so that the price and the hope can be seen. The roles of the male and female in all life-given creatures is that in most of the species on land only produce 1 or 2 offsprings per pregnancy. Of course, I'm referring to the larger species such as humans, cattle, sheep, goats, elephants, etc. The male produces abundant seed, but the female usually only a single egg per cycle. See, this is why the male is more expendable than the female. And I'm going to deal into that. And I'm not saying that people should not be concerned about human males and they're expendable. That's not what I'm saying. So each birth is important to the ongoing survival of their kind. Every birth is important. Males of the animals which Yah tells Israel it can consume for food are more expendable than females, as one or a few males can perpetuate the herds and flocks. It's a multiplicity of seed versus a limited quantity of eggs. Every seed has the potential to fertilize an egg. But only one seed can fertilize each egg. You know that in the scenario with the man and the woman, many seeds are thrown at the egg, but only one of them will ever fertilize the egg. All the rest are going to die. Yah instructed Israel to set aside the firstborn male of each female as his personal property. They belong to him. Only the firstborn male in every one of these species, the sacrificial animals and the human beings, only the male that is firstborn is to be redeemed or used as a sacrifice. If the firstborn is a female, it has importance, but it doesn't have to be redeemed. I'm going to deal into this and delve into it a little farther. Because this isn't a sexual thing between the male and the female, that men are more vital than the female. Now, the men are supposed to be the protectors, the defenders. We're supposed to be the farmers, the herdsmen. Women have a role, and it's important. You know, they spend more time with the children than the fathers do. And so a man better take care when he's in that period of life looking for a proper mate. It isn't just about, well, how pretty is she, or how smart is she, or, no, she just has several factors. Is this woman the potential to be a good mother? Is she wise? Can she adapt? Because women have to be much more adaptable than men. It's a gift. But you guys forget it. The males of the herds and flocks were to be sacrificial animals for returning to the owner what is rightfully his. The owner here is Yah. They belong to him. He says, you can't use the firstborn male from any female for any other purpose than a sacrifice. Because it's his property. An act of recognizing authority over us and maintaining the proper roles we have been given. The unclean beasts which Israel could utilize were to be redeemed using one of the clean animals as a redemption. For our permission to make use of them. If the firstborn male of an unclean animal was not redeemed, it was to be killed as it was being returned to the master. He said, you have no right to use the firstborn for any purpose other than what I said. And if you are not going to redeem the firstborn male of your donkey or your camel or your whatever, you have no right to use it. It's not yours. Kill it. You have no right to use it. It's not because the animal's evil or anything. But you're trying to take something that doesn't belong to you. You can have it back if you'll pay it, if you'll pay the price for it back. And that price is a clean animal, sacrificed in its place. It's why the livestock that were edible were much more important than those that weren't. We had no right to usurp his authority and steal from him. Now the unclean creature, known as the Adam, its firstborn males were always to be redeemed by submitting the 5 shekels of silver. Oh, I said unclean, and I'm referring him as food. Man is not permitted to eat other human beings. That's the unclean I'm referring to here. And we will go to Bamidbar, chapter 18. And this will deal with the 5 shekels. The shekel is a weight, it's not a coin. And it's going to be verses 15 through 18. Everyone opening a womb of all flesh, which they offer to Yah, among man and among animal, shall be yours. Only you shall certainly redeem the firstborn of man, and you shall redeem the firstling of the unclean beast. And the redeemed ones from a month old you shall redeem with your valuation of silver, 5 shekels by the shekel of the sanctuary. It is 20 gerahs. But the firstling of an ox, or the firstling of a sheep, or the firstling of a goat, you shall not redeem. They are holy, or set apart. You shall sprinkle their blood on the altar, and you shall burn their fat as incense, a fire offering of soothing fragrance to Yah. And their flesh shall be yours as the breast of the wave offering, and as the right leg it shall be yours. And that's referring to the priest. That's their property when they present the offering on your behalf. And now we'll go back to Exodus 13. This is a very important chapter to the firstborn. especially of Israel. And I hope that those of you who watch these videos contemplate what I bring up here, because it's to edify you, to encourage you, to cause you to look into things that you may have never been challenged with before. And it shall be when Yah brings you into the land of the Canaanite, as he swore to you and to your fathers, and gives it to you. Oh, the only place that he promised us is the land where the Canaanites were living. Oh, did the Canaanites live in the United States? Did they live in Russia? Did they live in South Africa? You shall set apart to Yah every one opening the womb, and every firstling, the offspring of animals which are yours, the males belong to Yah. And every firstling of a donkey you shall redeem with a flock animal. And if you do not redeem, you shall break its neck, and every firstborn of men among your sons you shall redeem. We are commanded to redeem the firstborn male of the human being. And it shall be when your son asks you in the future, saying, what is this? You shall say to him, Yah brought us out from Egypt by the might of his hand, from the house of slaves. And it happened when Pharaoh hardened himself against sending us away, Yah killed every firstborn one in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of men even to the firstborn of animals. On the account of this I sacrifice to Yah every one of the males opening the womb, and I redeem every firstborn of my sons. And it shall be a sign on your hand, and frontlets between your eyes, for Yah brought us out from Egypt by the might of his hand. You know, the strong right hand is referring to Yeshua. And we'll move on to Shemot, Exodus chapter 34, verses 19 and 20. Everyone opening the womb is mine, and all your male livestock, a firstling of ox or sheep, and a firstling of a donkey, you shall redeem with a lamb. And if you do not redeem, you shall break its neck. You will redeem every firstborn of your sons, and they shall not be seen before me, before my face, empty. This passage is saying, you shall not bring your firstborn sons before me without the 5 shekel, the son that breaks the womb, the firstborn son of the mother. It's not the firstborn son of the father, it's the firstborn son of the mother. The mother is where you get your birthright, the father is where you get your heritage. What tribe your father is from is what matters. Your mother gives you the right to the inheritance. That's why Hagar, giving birth to Ishmael, wasn't to be considered Abraham's firstborn, because that firstborn was supposed to come from Sarah. It does not mean Ishmael had no value. He was Hagar's firstborn, as Yitzchak was Sarah's firstborn. It's Sarah's firstborn son. Gives him the right to the inheritance, but only his father can give him the inheritance. The father holds the inheritance. The mother determines whether you have the right to the inheritance. You know, I said earlier, why this was so close to my heart is, I'm a firstborn son. I mean, I am the first child from my mother's womb. A male. Israel's redemption was paid in Egypt by those who would not acknowledge the authority of the Creator, and thus their firstborn sons were the price paid for refusing the owner's wishes. You ever think of that? The firstborn of those who would not let Israel leave died as a sacrifice for their disobedience. Disobedience cost them their firstborn sons because they tried to destroy Israel. They tried to destroy the sons of Israel when Pharaoh commanded the midwives, every male child that's born, kill it. But the midwives didn't carry that out. So the next step was throw them in the river. As I said on females, it's not that females are not important, but if all the males, if Yah had allowed Pharaoh and the Egyptians to destroy all the males of Israel, all the females would have married Egyptians or others, and that's what their children would have been. They've been raised as Egyptians. Israel would have disappeared. That's not what Yah's plan was. I'm going to use Israel. You know what? And Israel needs to suck it up. Chosen does not mean we're better than anybody else. Chosen means I, Yah, chose you to give you an assignment that I didn't give to any other group among humanity. You are to be a light to the nations. Unfortunately, that light in many cases, it's a black light. It doesn't show much. We have not carried out the assignment. This was Egypt's great and terrible day. Those of you who are familiar with the prophecy in Joel, if you read the whole book and put chapter 2, and especially that portion of chapter 2, in its proper context, the great and terrible day, are we looking for another day when the Egypt, which is the rest of the world at this time, will lose firstborn because it won't let Israel, who's willing to go home, leave? Now consider Yochanan the Immerser and his relative Yeshua. They were both firstborn sons of their mothers. And we're going to now move to the writing of Luke. And I'm going to point out some of the details of how important this is. And it's going to begin at verse 5 of chapter 1. In the days of Herod, the king of Judea, there was a certain priest named Zachariah of the daily course of Abiyah, and his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. Now Luke, being one who's not circumcised, companion of Paul, he's not one of the 12 disciples. I know there are some who were brought up thinking that Mark and Luke were of the 12 disciples. They weren't. Luke wasn't even circumcised. Shaul tells us that in one of his letters. He's of the uncircumcised. You don't have to be circumcised to serve Yah, but you got to be circumcised to be in the land. You can visit there and not be circumcised, but you can't have permanent residence there. And it's clearly telling us is that Zechariah and Elisheva are both descendants of Aharon. They're Levites of the line of the priesthood. And they were both righteous before Elohim, walking blameless in all the commandments and ordinances of Yah. And no child was born to them because Elisheva was barren, and both were advanced in their days. It's telling us here that Elisheva, like Sarah, was beyond her childbearing years. And it happened in his serving as priest in the order of his course before Elohim. The priesthood rotated because there were so many. According to the custom of the priest entering into the holy place of Yah, it was Zechariah's lot to burn incense. He was going to the altar of incense to offer up the incense altar, the prayer offerings. And all the multitude of the people was praying outside at the hour of incense. And the cherub of Yah appeared to him, standing on the right of the altar of incense. And seeing this, Zechariah was troubled and fell on him, Zechariah, because his prayer was heard. And your wife Elisheva will bear a son to you, and you shall call his name Yochanan. And he shall be joy and exultation to you, and many will rejoice over his birth. For he shall be great in the eyes of Yah, and he shall not drink wine or strong drink, and he will be filled of the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb. This is why I believe that Yochanan was a Nazir. He was not to drink any alcoholic beverage from the grapevine or any other intoxicating beverage. And he will turn many to the sons of Israel, or of the sons of Israel, to Yah their Elohim. And he will go out before him in the spirit and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the fathers to their children, and disobedient ones to the knowledge of the just, to make ready a people having been prepared for Yah. In the middle of this passage, the angel is quoting from the prophet Malachi, that he will become in the essence of what Elijah did in his time. And Zechariah said to the cherub, by what shall I know this? For I am old, and my wife is advanced in her days. And answering, the cherub said to him, I am Gabriel, or Gabriel, who stands before Yah, and I was sent to speak to you and to announce to you the good news of these things. And behold, you shall be silent and not able to speak until the day these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which shall be fulfilled in their season. And the people were expecting Zechariah, and they wondered at his delay in the sanctuary. He's in there longer than they were accustomed, the priests, to being in there. And so they're concerned. But coming out, he was not able to speak to them, and they recognized that he had seen a vision in the sanctuary, and he was making sign to them and continued dumb or unable to speak. They recognized that something happened to him in there, and he must have seen a vision. And it happened when the days of his service were fulfilled, he went away to his house. And after these days his wife Elisheva conceived, and she hid herself 5 months, saying, So has Yah done to me in the days in which he looked on me to take away my reproach among men. And in the 6th month the cherub Gabriel was sent from the presence of Elohim to Galilee, to the city whose name is Nazareth, to a virgin who had been betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. And the virgin's name was Miriam. And entering, the cherub said to her, Peace to you, full of grace. Our Adonai is with you. You are blessed among women. And seeing this, she was disturbed at his word, and considered what kind of greeting this might be. And the cherub said to her, Do not fear, Miriam, for you have found grace from Yah. For behold, you will receive conception, and bear a son, and you will call his name Yeshua. This one will be great, and will be called the Son of the Most High. And Yah Elohim will give him the throne of his father David. The throne of his father David is saying, you are a rightful heir of David. And he will reign over the house of Jacob to the ages, and of his kingdom there will be no end. This is speaking of the promise made in Yeshayahu, Isaiah, where he says, and of the increase of his government there shall be no end. But Miriam said to the cherub, How will this be, since I do not know a man? And the cherub answered and said to her, The Holy Spirit will come, and the power of the highest will rest upon you. Because of this, he who is to be born of you is holy, and will be called the Son of Yah. And behold, your kinswoman, Elisheva, she also conceived a son in her old age, and this is the 6th month of her who was called barren. For nothing shall be impossible with Yah. Miriam said, Behold, I am the handmaid of Yah. Let it be to me according to your word. and the cherub departed from her presence. We'll move on down to verse 57. And the time was fulfilled to Elisheva for her to bear, and she bore a son. And the neighbors and her relatives heard that Elohim magnified his mercy with her, and they rejoiced with her. And it happened on the 8th day they came to circumcise the child, and were calling it by his father's name, Zechariah. But his mother answered, No, not so, but he shall be called Yochanan. And they said to her, No one is among your kindred who is called by this name. It's talking about in either one of their families. Neither Elisheva or Zechariah had there been a common use of the name Yochanan. It's not that the name Yochanan did not exist. It's that in their particular part of the family, this was not a common name. And it was not uncommon for a son to be named after his father. And they signaled to his father that what he might desire him to be called. And he asked for a writing tablet. He wrote, saying, Yochanan is his name. And all marveled. And instantly his mouth was opened, and his tongue loosed, and he spoke, blessing Elohim. Now, Zechariah, being a priest, was grateful and obedient and thankful. Here's his wife beyond her childbearing years. He's not a young man himself. He's faithfully fulfilling his duties. He and his wife are happily married, but they would both obviously like a child. And they haven't been blessed with one. But the time has come now that Yah is telling them, this is what is going to happen. I'm going to use you and the son that's going to be born. Then Zechariah goes on and he makes prophecies, quoting some of the prophets and alluding to things that are going to happen. And then we'll move on to chapter 2 of Luke and deal with his relative. Now it happened in those days that a decree went out from Augustus Caesar that the names of all the people of his dominion should be written down. This registration first occurred under the governing of Syria by Cyrenius. And all went to be registered, each to his own city. And Joseph also went from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because of his being of the house and family of David, to be registered with Mariam, the one having been betrothed to him as wife, she being pregnant. And it happened as they were there, the days were fulfilled for her to bear. And she bore her son, the firstborn, and she wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in the manger, because there was no room where they could lodge. Yosef is going to register for the taxes. Yeshua is born in Bethlehem. Both Yosef and Miriam are descendants of David. He's going to be born there, and who's he going to be recorded as his father? Yosef. Yosef is going to be registered as Yeshua's father. So where's Yeshua going to get all of his inheritance at? He's going to get it from Yosef. He's not going to get it from his mother. He's going to be thought of as the son of Yosef. And now we move on in chapter 2 down to verses 21 through 24. And when 8 days had passed to circumcise the child, his name was called Yeshua, the name called of the cherub before he was conceived in the womb. And when the days of her cleansing according to the law of Moshe were fulfilled, they took him up to Jerusalem to present him to Yah, as it had been written in the Torah of Yah, every male opening a womb shall be called a holy one to Yah, and to offer a sacrifice according to that said in the Torah of Yah, a pair of turtle doves or 2 nestlings of doves, also pigeons. The pigeon and the dove are from the same family. Some of the translations say pigeons, others quote another species of dove. Now what we're going to do here, we're going to go back and read about this law that's being fulfilled in verses 21 through 24 of Luke chapter 2. It is Leviticus chapter 12. And Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, If a woman has conceived seed and has born a male, then she shall be unclean 7 days, as on the days of her menstrual impurity she shall be unclean. And on the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised, and she shall remain in the blood of her cleansing 33 days. She shall not touch any holy thing, and she shall not go into the sanctuary until the days of her cleansing are fulfilled. She's not evil because she's unclean, but she's not supposed to do certain things. Just like any human being of Israel, anytime they became unclean according to anything that the Torah said made us unclean, if we did not honor what Yah said, that was sin. The fact that it happened doesn't necessarily mean it was a sin, but the fact that we will not acknowledge his authority in telling us, if you do this, then you must do this to become clean. If we choose not to become clean, that's when it becomes a sin. And if she bears a female, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks as in her menstruation, and she shall continue in the blood of her cleansing 66 days. And when the days of her cleansing are fulfilled, for son or for daughter, she shall bring in a lamb, a son of a year, for a burnt offering, and a young dove or a turtle dove for a sin offering, to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. You notice there it said a lamb and a turtle dove, or a pigeon. This is where it becomes important to understand what's going on in Luke. And he shall bring it near before Yah, and shall atone for her, and she shall be cleansed from the fountain of her blood. This is the law of her who bears, whether a male or a female. It's talking about the child. And the he that says, will bring it for her, is the priest. And if her hand is not able to find the lamb, then she shall take 2 turtle doves, or 2 young doves, or pigeons, for a burnt offering, and 1 for a sin offering, and the priest shall atone for her, and she shall be cleansed. Joseph and Miriam were not wealthy. They couldn't afford the lamb. That's why she's allowed to bring 2. Not because he's the Messiah. I submit that it is written within the instructions from Yah that no redemption price may have been paid for Yeshua, so that he could be a sacrifice for our redemption. As the bulls, kids, and lambs were not allowed to be bought from the Father for our personal use. Also, if the first Adam was formed from the dust of the earth, then could not the second be formed by the same manner in sight of a woman? I find it very interesting that people want to limit Yah. Oh, he can do everything, but he couldn't do that. He could not form a human embryo inside of a woman. Well, that's how he formed the very first human being. He formed it out of the dust of the earth. Oh, and isn't Eve a human being? She was taken out of Adam. Isn't Miriam a human being? Aren't we all dust? This very much pertains to Yeshua being our individual offering for sin, as it requires a female lamb or kid. Remember, I've brought this up a couple times. Our personal sin offering had to be a female. Adam was a whole being when formed, and Yeshua was a whole being also. When Yeshua was resurrected, we are told that it is the firstborn of many. It's what he is. So in his resurrection, where is the mother's womb? If a seed is planted in the ground, it's the earth. There is some truth to the idea of Mother Earth. Not in the way most pagans think of it. Resurrection is returning to life, as reincarnation is based on the immortal soul concept, which is pagan. That's the difference between resurrection and reincarnation. Resurrection says something dies, and then life is given back to it. Whereas reincarnation is the soul migrates from one type of creature to another, depending on whether it was good or bad in its previous existence. Immortality of the soul. In the belief that we are immortal souls, we diminish the power and authority of our Creator and Redeemer, the Son of Elohim. Our Creator is not the Father. Our Creator is Yeshua. The aspect within the human being, Yeshua. The Yeshua is the salvation provided by Yah. Yeshua means Yah is salvation. We cannot be born again unless we die, and there are two stages to this process. The first is to stop following our selfish will and start doing His, and the second is to die literally, for however brief a period that may be, and rise again from the dust of the earth. We will always be part of the creation. We will always be part of the creation. We always have been. We always will be. Anybody who thinks that we're something different than creation, that's blasphemy. That's usurping the throne. That's the man of lawlessness standing up in the holy place, exalting himself over everything that is authority, which is talking about Yah. I'm not immortal. I depend on my Creator, my Redeemer. When I die, I will have to be resurrected, just like Yeshua was. The Father, Yah, had to bring the physical human being part of Yeshua back to life. Yeshua had a body when he left the tomb. Why do people think we're not going to? They didn't recognize him either. Those who knew him didn't recognize him because he was different. He didn't look exactly the same. But when he began to talk to them, then they realized, it's the Master. They didn't recognize him physically, but they recognized his character. They recognized what he said. It's him. He's back. They didn't understand what resurrection was. They obviously must have believed it because Yeshua taught it all the time and they never asked him. But maybe once. That they didn't understand, well, what is this resurrection? Now, many have been told that the Sadducees did not believe in life after death. That's not what they believed. They believed that good or bad, when you died, there was no judgment. You went down like in the bowels of the earth into Sheol. You existed there forever. What a droll existence that would be. We're here forever doing nothing. Kind of reminds me of another droll existence that I used to hear about when I was growing up. Well, we're going to go someplace forever and do nothing. We're going to go to the magic kingdom and do nothing forever. For a being that was created to do something, that would be hell. To do nothing for eternity. You'd probably wish that you were burning up. I was designed to be productive. I was designed to serve a king. And that king will take care of me if I choose to live according to the pattern he set up, because he did it for our benefit. He loved us so much that he provided a way for that relationship to be healed. You know, the northern kingdom was divorced by Yah. The southern was not. Not because the southern was living any more righteously, but because of a promise made to Melech David, King David. The northern kingdom was sent into exile because of its sin. Because of sin. Being outside the land of promise is not a blessing. It's a curse. It doesn't mean that the rest of the world has no purpose. This means that if you believe you're Israel, this isn't home. Doesn't mean we won't serve here. Doesn't mean the kingdom won't use us here. But this isn't home. How long will it be? You know, we're advised to pray, come quickly, Yeshua. You ever stop and think about what that means? Come quickly, Yah's salvation. You know, part of that redemption plan is that when a husband divorced his wife, if she went off and married another man, he couldn't remarry her. Well, that's what Israel did when it took up following the Baal. You know what the Baal is? It's a government. Those of you who think this is all some spiritual, mystical, mumbo-jumbo gobbledygook have missed the point of all Scripture. It's about a real, physical kingdom. Now, there are spiritual, mystical, supernatural aspects to that, but they are not the only aspects to it. And they're only mystical and supernatural to us because we don't understand them. The only way that that bride could remarry her husband would be if he died and was resurrected. That's what Yeshua is saying when he said, I came only for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I'm willing to die for my wife so that I can remarry her when I'm alive again. Look, he died. Everybody thinks that we're under the new covenant completely, or the renewed covenant. There's only one flaw in that. Yeshua drank that cup that night with his disciples. He said, I'll not drink this again until I drink it with you in the kingdom. Guess what? We're not remarried to him yet. And we won't be until he drinks the cup with us. It doesn't matter how many times we drink the cup. We're drinking the cup saying, we're waiting for you. Even those of us who are male, this, honey, come get us. We're in trouble. Save us from ourselves. We're in a mess of our own making. The wedding ceremony in the ancient Hebrew tradition required the man and the woman to both drink from the same cup. Tell me any time that you've ever drank that cup any time in your life that you weren't the only one drinking from that cup. I know there are others with traditions where you share a cup, but did Yeshua show up there physically and drink from that cup too? Until he does, the bride isn't remarried yet. He died so that he could remarry her, but he can't come back for her until the Father says, it's okay. Go get your wife. The example of this is in the prophet Hosea, when he's told after years he could finally go get his disobedient, unfaithful wife, Gomer, and bring her back home. And do you see a picture of us as Gomer, that beat up, abused woman? And her husband still comes and says, I'm going to take you home. You're not beautiful anymore in the physical sense, but there's a part of you that is beautiful to me. Is there a part of us that he's going to find beautiful when he returns? That should be our concern. He does not find disobedience beautiful. And I'm not saying that we don't make mistakes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if we are willfully disobedient, there's no beauty in us. I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. If he threw us out of the garden to protect us from living eternally as sinners, he's not going to come back to take us back to the garden in that same state. So contemplate that and think about it. It's for your sake. It's not to beat anybody up, because I have to think about the same thing about myself constantly. May Yah bless you and keep you. Keep his hand upon you, and may he give you shalom. Until next time, shalom aleichem.
May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May the light of his countenance shine upon you, and may he be gracious to you and give you peace. In the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen.